Bowden has been voted the #1 body language professional in the world. Born in England and building off an early career as an actor on screen and stage, Mark pioneered nonverbal analysis of human behaviors intended to persuade. His techniques are trusted by business leaders, Fortune 500 companies, politicians, and G7 prime ministers, as well as the millions of people who have watched his TEDx talk, his YouTube channel, his media commentary, and his appearances with Dr. Phil, or read his best-selling books including Winning Body Language, Tame the Primitive Brain, or Truth and Lies, What People Are Really Thinking. On today's podcast, we're talking about body language and relationships. Does being a body language expert mean that his marriage is all smooth sailing? Not quite. But we start with body language and courtship, talk about dating rituals, the signals we send, and why the prospect of rejection can legitimately feel like death for a man. Who knew? Mark explains how to identify the baseline behavior of a potential partner, why eye contact confuses the heck out of everyone, and whether so-called cheap signals will become less relevant over time. Mark has theories on how the evolution of marriages can be tracked using body language, from unabashed mirroring to lip-curling disdain, and how that part might just be the beginning of the actual start of the increasingly elusive long-term marriage. It's all in the body. How does being an expert on body language help or damage your marriage?
Well, I would say you're pretty much just as bad at working out what's going on, because being consciously competent at something means that you must have your conscious mind completely running at full throttle to be able to be consciously competent at that time. Mm-hmm. And in my guess is what you're saying is, hey, when things get heated, when things get more difficult, when things get more emotional, are you better at it because you're an expert in body language?
At conveying and reading what's happening in your life.
So when things get more heated, when things get more emotional, blood is drained away from the neocortex. And therefore you become potentially as unconsciously incompetent as everybody else. So you fall into exactly the same traps that other people fall into, because you're now running on feeling and instinct, and your feeling and instinct is very rarely accurate. It's helpful to saving your life and getting conflict over with quick and with less danger. But it isn't ever concerned about accuracy. Your instinct is concerned about safety now, accuracy tomorrow. And in fact, sometimes what I find is if you are in a heated moment, an emotional moment, and you have managed to, because of various methods that you can use, hold on to the conscious competence, you're now talking at a language level that doesn't connect with the other person, and so you're not seen as connected with them, so it doesn't even serve you.
And they feel that they can't reach you because your language will become too academic, too intellectualized.
Absolutely, too cold, too heartless, too.
So interesting.
Yeah, so look, it's like everything. There's a window of therapy. There's a balance to be had, and if you're somebody who, in the moment of heat, will not allow themselves to get into their emotions, then you're probably going to fail at a whole bunch of things.
You just made a connection for me, by the way. Whether it's dating, whether it's marriage. I was going to say, when I asked you the question, how does being an expert on this help or damage your marriage? If you gave me an answer that was a little bit too perfect, I was going to say, let's try to dial in your wife for the counterpoint. I know goes to your speeches. I saw a TED, one of the speeches, I think it was a TED Talk where she was in the audience. Yes. And I said, well, now she's already into the conversation, so we could dial her in for the counterpoint if Mark says something, But you were very self-aware, and you were like, well, in a very British sort of a version, I'll paraphrase, something like, I'm equally rubbish at reading body language in the heat of the moment, which makes you human. Which is nice.
And unless I know the heat is coming and I can countermeasure that,
Right.
So I can't be caught by surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
to
yeah.
know the triggers coming.
Mm-hmm.
If I know the triggers coming, I can do better at staying consciously competent. If I don't know the triggers coming, I'm going to get flipped like everybody else.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you know what? And knowing it's coming, but
right.
I think our sensitivity, our antenna are higher when we're dating to body language and signaling than they are when we're in a full-term relationship or when we're married. And having been through both, I understand that distinction. So I want to start with something simple in mating rituals, right? Whether we are monkeys or lions or humans, we need to be able to both read the body language of the others as well as send the intended signals with our own body language to get our needs met, whatever those
Yeah,
needs may be.
yeah.
Connection, mating, procreation, whatever it is, protection. Which emotion for humans during courtship do you think we as a society most poorly convey?
Which emotion during courting do we most poorly display? Well, here's what I think most people are looking out for. Yeah, and then let's work out if it's poorly displayed or not. I think we're looking for interest. Are you interested?
And in what level are you
And
interested?
what level? Yeah. So are you interested, and to what degree
Right.
are you interested? Because if I or you get that wrong, the social ramifications are huge.
And embarrassing.
Embarrassing. In fact, as tested in males, don't know how much this is experimented with in females, but as tested in males, not only humans but other primates as well. If the male misreads the interest level, and the interest level is way lower than the male expected, and therefore the male gets rejected. Okay, the male gets rejected. Cortisol levels spike, which means immune system gets depressed. Chances of getting ill go up.
The
Chance,
male immune system is suppressed through cortisol spikes after rejection?
yeah, which
Oh
means
man,
they're
I need
about
to
to
get
get
that
wiped
next
out.
next
They're
time.
about to get wiped out of the gene pool. So the risk is massive. Rejection means you may as well die. You may as well die. Your genetic code is not worth continuing.
That's a powerful connection.
So, yeah, okay. So
It's
so
powerful.
now, so let's imagine here we are on a date, yeah, and of course, look, part of my brain is social and understands higher social ideas and understands, okay, look, let's just say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to spend the rest of my life with. So there's got to be some social bond. There's got to be enough similarity, enough difference between us. Okay. Yeah. So we're looking for enough similarity, but enough difference so that there's advantage there. And at the same time, underlying that is also like what's the chance of the genetic code being carried and being good? Okay. And
Yeah.
so that's going on at the same time. And so part of my unconscious mind is trying to work out, am I going to get rejected or am I going to get accepted here? Because and I'm talking, male, female here. You don't need many males, okay? And females have a lot of choice.
Right.
Okay, females have got a lot of choice, and so chances of me getting rejected are high. Okay, so massive risk. I'm not saying, hey, feel sorry for males. Don't feel sorry.
No, but it's just a
I
fact.
mean, I'm just trying to, unpack here
Right.
your point of what signal is a male looking for, looking to not be rejected, because the ramifications of that are huge. And the moment the male starts to sense any kind of rejection, they're going to pull back, pull out. They're
That
going to
is
make
so
the first move and
interesting.
reject themselves out of this situation.
And something you said was about that the male is looking for not only signals of availability and interest, but also signals of good genetic,
Of course.
usefulness to the continuation of his own genes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, looking
But
for
it's
help.
also whether or not that woman can keep those genes going. And I have a friend who specifically says the reason he hasn't had children is because he has never met a woman he felt confident enough would raise the children the way he would want them to be raised if he wasn't around.
Well, it's
And
too
that's
picky.
what he's looking for,
It's
which
too
is a high
picky.
bar.
It's a high bar.
Very high.
Well, look, and at some point, you must make a leap of faith with somebody,
Right.
or never going to happen.
And I know you are rooted in evolutionary psychology. I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that. For a
yeah.
lot of reasons, I also appreciate that because a number of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have theories about different aspects of life rooted in evolutionary psychology.
Nice.
There's a through line here that has to do with understanding our real motivations. And that's very, very important. So you're talking about how most body language is not universal enough to be gospel. And
Yeah,
that people need to stop thinking about body language in this very simplistic way of saying, take up space, or
right,
saying, don't say your name like it's a question.
right.
Look, these are like very sophomoric approaches to
Yeah,
body language and
yeah.
conveying what you want. But it's nice that they're out there for people who really don't even have any kind of basic
Sure, it's a
understanding
good
of how to
start.
present themselves. But
Yeah.
presuming that a person is dating these days to really partner up, how can they learn to identify their potential partner's baseline body language in the first 12 weeks to be able to then start to distinguish outlying body language that could be signaling a change in their feelings?
Yeah, okay. As an expert on body language, we're looking for change. Okay, we're looking for change, and then what we're looking to do is to ask the person about the change, to find out from them what might be going on for them, to get
I was going to
closer.
ask if it's okay to call people out on their body language changes, though. Is it okay, or is it doing yourself a disservice? Because if you call them out on it and they were trying to deceive you, they can give you an explanation.
Well, yeah, okay. So look, you can. So there's calling them out, or there's just asking after them. Yeah. So look, let's just say that I work out what your baseline is. You know what? So for people watching, listening, the baseline is your usual behaviors when you're relaxed, when nothing stressful is going on that I can discern, or if something is stressful is going on, yeah, your usual behavior for that, your baseline behavior for that, because some days are more stressful than others, and I want to work out, okay, so this is a stressful day for you, but what am I going to see which is even above that?
How
And
do
so
you
if,
tolerate stress in your life? And then I
right,
know what to expect.
right, exactly. So I'm looking for any kind of change. And that's for me to decide is go, okay, I think that was significant. So you got to be a bit self-reliant about this and go, okay, I'm getting the sense that something has changed right now. And then what you want to do is go, hey, how you doing? Is just ask. Yeah. Or you could just go, hey, how you doing at the moment? How you feeling about this? Yeah. Or you could go, listen, is there anything that you don't agree with that I just said? Or I might go, hey, what are you happiest about what I just said just then? You know?
Twice recently, I have asked someone, twice in the past year, I've asked somebody on a first date, are you okay?
Okay. Okay. So the thing is what are your expectations on a first date? Like, what are your expectations on a first date as to how confident somebody should be around you?
Mine are very high,
Okay.
but
Okay.
that's
So
not normal. And I know
okay, so you've already gone, okay. So what you're saying is I probably have potentially too higher expectations of somebody's confidence on a first date.
right. Let's have a lovely night, Pinot or Cabernet. Let's just have a good time. Because I don't walk into these things putting stress into them. All right.
Okay, well, for all kinds of reasons, that person might be stressed, irregardless of you going, you know what, I'll make it easy for you. I'll be super cool. I'll be super. So it's like you would control all the stress there. Yeah. And that's probably not likely. So you've made yourself the center of all stress on the date and gone, if I don't add any stress, all stress will disappear.
Well, or I'm just assuming whoever I'm going out with is confident and self-possessed and not there unless they're feeling good.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Which
And
is wrong.
so the possibility that somebody shows up and goes, wow, this person is amazing. Like, I'm getting the real sense here that this could possibly be the one. Yeah. And that not start to ramp their stress level, that they should go, you know what, this could possibly be the one, and I'm super cool about that. Like, this is the moment. Like, this could be the life-defining moment. And you're going, and you should be super cool about
Right,
it.
right.
He's like,
I'm going, if
no,
you are, then
this,
what are you going to do?
this is the moment. Like, would you want them to go back to, here's the story they're going to tell. Well, you know, I'm first met her, and I knew she was the one, and stress levels didn't rise at all. Knowing that, I was super relaxed. I understood this was going to be the rest of my life. Super cool about it. Yeah. Or do you want the story? I knew this was the one. I knew it was her, and like my heart started racing. I couldn't keep eye contact
That
with
is
her.
a really nice way to put it. You've given me a lot more empathy for men just now. Just in this entire conversation, I feel tremendous amounts of empathy because A, they think they are going to die if they're rejected.
Right.
And B, they're sort of getting the sense that they might be penalized by getting overly excited if they think I'm the one. That's terrible.
Right. Right, right. How did they get it right? How they and you're coming in going, you know what I'll do? I'll save this situation by adding zero stress. So this, and when they start to show stress, it's like, what's happening here? I wasn't adding any stress.
I'm
Like
like, what is your
they
deal,
completely
dude?
fail at it.
My mentality is I am a tiny woman. I am nice and friendly, and if you're not calm, cool, and collected, I do not understand what is happening.
Okay.
And that is, I can see, maybe not the most comforting of energies. So thank you for that. I think you just helped a lot of people that I meet.
Yeah. I mean, look, in here, in this situation, with you interviewing me here, you are very confident, you're very self-possessed, you're very calm and assertive. And so, you know, you got a lot of status there, okay? And so if there's elements of that you bring to the date, which of course you should, because that's you, like that's
I'm the same way. Yeah.
yes, that's an aspect of
I'll
you.
just be more dressed up. I'd look better.
Yeah. Okay, so it's you dressed up even better,
It's me dressed up.
you know. But already for me, I'm like, okay, here's somebody who can put herself together, undoubtedly.
There's
Like,
more spackle, better lighting,
yeah,
and
more on there. Just this,
yeah,
even more, even better.
right.
It's like that's gonna be high value, and so now you've got this person who's in front of high value. I think, and culturally, we don't know what that person culturally does in terms of eye contact with high value. Yeah.
Right.
So look,
Right.
you know as well as I do in Western business, in Western, which most people spend most of their time at work. Okay, so that's going to be somewhat a majority of their culture. In Western business, we look towards the thing of value, and then we keep eye contact with that thing of value to keep reminding it it's the thing of value. Okay, in some other cultures, we look towards the thing of value, and then we avert our eyes from the thing of value, because that thing is so valuable you can't even
To
look
give
at
it
it anymore.
respect, to
Yeah,
not
you give it
challenge it.
respect and you don't challenge it. Yeah. And some people who are in that mix of that culture, depending on how the situation is moving, they might move from one culture to the other culture. So they start off with very good eye contact, and then as rank goes up, you start to see them lose eye contact because now they're giving respect. Yeah, and you got the other person going, well, this person doesn't respect me. They weren't looking at me. It's like, no, they were respecting you.
Which can feel like outlying behavior, which is what makes it so hard. And I think when you talk about reading people's body language and figuring out their individual baseline, and again, just in the context of romantic relationships, there's a sort of a philosophical question that I've got, which is, I've got young children. Philosophically, if we agree that most body language, however, is evolutionary adaptation to help us send signals to
Yeah.
get mates,
Yeah.
resources, and survival. If
Yeah.
we believe that, then in the modern world where we can have conversations like this,
Yeah.
and where my children and the people who want to date them can go so far as to sit around telling each other simple things like take up space, make eye contact, cock your head to the right, play with your hair, blah, blah, blah. Do those signals eventually become meaningless? Meaning it's all confusion and chaos in a generation when it comes to mating and dating and marriage?
Yeah, they potentially become what we call a cheap signal, which means, look, ultimately at the moment in our conversation right now, we're on a cheap signal, which is it cost you and I very little to get into this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Where in the world are you, by the way? Where are you?
New York.
New York. Okay. So if we were to do this face to face, yeah, then one of us would have had to have got on a plane. So risk goes up, and as risk goes up, behavior changes. This is low risk for us. Okay. There's a reason that the traditional engagement ring has a diamond on it. Yeah, it's not cheap. I mean, there's a lot of diamonds, by the way, and De Beers kind of created the idea that there weren't a lot. But ultimately, it's an expensive signal. There's my signal that you're the one. Now, we know down the line all kinds of things can happen, but that first signal needed to be clear and expensive. Well, let's go into online dating. I mean, how much can we trust it? Well, the signals are pretty cheap. I don't need to verify the picture is me. I guess on some platforms, I'm not sure, but I don't need to verify that. I don't need to pay to have that verified.
Okay.
The more I paid to get it verified, the more expensive the signal would be, and the more people would trust the signal.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why FaceTime before meeting has become so common.
Okay. Yeah. And so
People refuse to
which
meet without a
right.
quick FaceTime because they're thinking, I could be a 600-pound Nigerian man who
Right.
just posted a bunch of pictures.
Right.
Nothing wrong with him, but whoever's shopping for me is probably not shopping for him,
Right.
right?
Right.
Also, someone could look accomplished and attractive, and all that could be true, but we could get on the phone and they could have nothing to say that leads me to believe we have anything in common or that I would even enjoy a dinner.
Right. So the image of them next to, and I'm not saying you're going for this, but the image of them next to the sports car,
Right.
can we verify that that is yours?
So let's say we agree that cheap online dating is full of cheap signals.
Yeah.
Cheap signals will become less and less trustworthy over time and over generations
Yeah.
because of the fact that we all discuss these things more.
Right.
That is in opposition to marriage, which is a long-term lifetime negotiation, if you will, right?
Right.
It's a
Right.
whole other level of confusion, but it's also a lifetime negotiation.
Right.
I would argue that we tune out of body language when we marry. I would argue, and you can tell me if you disagree, that the longer that we're with somebody, we tune out of their body language, we tune into their words, and we then focus entirely on ourselves. Because, it's important to mess up our marriages and it's important to ignore our partners. So, in the context of that, how do you think body language, when used correctly, could tap into the reptilian brain and actually help improve long-term romantic relationships over time?
Well, so understanding that primitive brain, which is not only trying to deal with, does it have enough food, light, heat, but also is it socially connected? Does it feel supported socially? That does need signals, and especially under stress. So it does need,
The long-term partner
yes,
needs signals of comfort under stress.
yes, yeah, both in terms of are they getting enough food, light, heat, safety, all of that stuff at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid, and then going up, socially connected. And of course, all of us are going to become self-centered at some point and vacillate in and out of that, depending on our personality. Some of us might have personality disorders, which will exacerbate that as well at times or all the times as our ways of not showing that to other people start to disappear as we become more relaxed or unable to keep up the energy of masking that
But
as
there is
well.
a level of implied trust. When we get married, we want so very much to believe in this person that we are almost more primed to buy into and latch onto the cheap signals, which I think is an opportunity in marriage, right? So when people get married, they have this premarital counseling in so many different cultures.
Right.
If you were the premarital counselor for a couple who is getting married now, what sorts of simple body language signals would you recommend they dedicate themselves to showing each other on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to keep their marriage strong?
So I don't know which ones they should be showing, but I would tell them. So a couple of things. First of all, I would tell them the one to avoid, which science says you should avoid. This is from the work of Gottman and looking at couples that were breaking up. Okay, and disdain or contempt was scientifically the clearest signal that these two were going to break up.
And how does it show up in the body language?
Like that. One side of the mouth. Yeah, you're doing it now.
What does that mean? I was
It
copying.
means that I disagree with your value system. And not only
Oh,
do
like
I disagree with it,
I see.
but also my people disagree with it as well. So you're not connected with me. You're not connected with all of our. You are disconnected with all of us. Not only me as your support system, but all the support system that I have as well. Basically, it's a signal of existential threat.
Like you just don't get it.
You just don't get it. Oh, so you
That's
want to go to the cinema?
right.
I thought we'd
Because
stay
you
at home
should
and
while
watch
you're
Netflix, but you want to? Sure. Let's go and see a film.
right. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So
And if
that
anybody's listening to this podcast on Apple instead of watching it on YouTube, what just happened was a slight uptick in the left corner of the mouth that would be almost imperceptible if you weren't
yeah.
looking.
But because it's asymmetrical, it will show against the baseline because mostly the mouth will be symmetrical.
One side lip.
Yeah, it's about the only universal signal that is asymmetrical. So you can see it you go a tiny little bit of it. You can go, oh, okay, there it is.
Right.
There it is. And it's saying, look, I have a fundamental disagreement, not with necessarily the thing that you said, but the system on which it is based. We
The
don't
system
have,
on which your beliefs are based is odious to me.
yeah, like cinema. It's good to go to the cinema.
Right. So, speaking of the Gottmans, I love their work. I
Yeah.
remember years ago reading about their concept of bids for attention, the percentage of bids for attention that people should respond to. But in the context of body language, if the goal is to show vulnerability and the goal is to show openness in the hopes that the other person will soften towards you and you will keep coming back together for the rest of your life in the context of a long-term marriage, what are some of the body language signs we may use to convey vulnerability or to convey openness to bids for attention?
Yeah, look. So there's open body language and there's closed body language, and you can imagine what you think open is, and it's pretty much as you imagine it. Just you
Showing your
create,
soft underbelly.
yeah, exactly. You create more access to your physical being. And then there's closed body language, which is less access to it. One is like when you stand in front of a warm fire on a cold day to get the heat in, and the other is like when you walk outside and it's a very, very cold day and you have to stop the heat escaping from your body.
Your spouse like the fire.
Yeah, exactly. And so if I were to say anything, I would go, look, can you, in moments of stress between you, can you show more open than closed body language? Can you do it on purpose? You're not designed to do it. Can you do it on purpose? Now, the other thing I'd add to this in terms of body language, and this is the second thing that I would tell people about, look, here's what will help your chances of survival as a couple from the little that I know, is you will mirror each other. You are designed to get infatuated with each other. You're designed to like what they like, do what they do, copy their behaviors. It will feel like you do want to go to the cinema. You do love going to the cinema. Yeah, your partner will go, I love it when we go to the cinema. And you'll go, I love it too. And it will feel really true. Because the first bonding happens around unconscious mirroring of each other. And you are so excited with this you've got so much energy around this person that it doesn't at that point feel like a stress to do this constant mirroring. But over time, it's going to get stressful on your body and you'll stop doing it. And suddenly one day you'll go, I don't want to go to the cinema, actually. I've never really liked it, to be honest.
I've never liked the cinema. But guess what? We're married, we've got 2 kids, and now my lower left side of my lip is curling up at you, and you don't know why.
I hate it, okay? It's like, but I thought you loved it. No, I don't. I've never.
And then I never knew you. Let's find a couple steps.
Okay, so now you are going to hit grief. Right. Because you've lost the person who was you, who was the perfect mirror to you. You're not seeing yourself anymore, and they've lost you. You're going into grief, okay? And so if you look at the stages of grief, that's what you're going to go through. And if you manage to get through that, if you manage to get through all those stages, now what you're in is the hard work that it takes to live with somebody who is not you. Yeah, an alien. You're going to start living with somebody who is a complete alien to you, and learn consciously to love them and to be with them, rather than the biological infatuation that your body did, and it took so much drive to do that. Yeah, but it was only trying to get so far.
Yeah, and most people are only going to get so far. What I love about this conversation is we started with how I scare people on dates. And we worked all the way through to when you are married and when you get really married.
Right.
And you have to make a choice about whether you want to do this thing.
Right.
Last question on this topic of romantic relationships. How and this could be either you or your wife or both. How have you or your wife gotten better at using body language by virtue of being married? Over the course of all the years you've been together, what do you do now that you didn't do when you got started? What does she do now that she didn't do when she got started that helps your marriage?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard because I don't think, we've both written books on body language together, and we're probably not any better than anybody else at it, because the complexity of the situation, and trying to keep conscious of it is hard. So look, if there's anything we both do better, it's trying so hard to keep conscious of the body language that we're seeing and that we're doing. But are we brilliant at that? No, of course not. Because emotions take over. and confusion takes over and complexity takes over. So all you can do is start a bit better and try and finish a bit better. But at some point, you're going to get quite lost in there.
And then instead of just being two body language experts having a nice, neat conversation about how it really wasn't about the dishes,
Right.
you end up being two
Never
married
about
people.
the dishes.
Right. You end up being two married people who hate each other just as much as everybody else.
Right. And one person's doing, well, you'd never do the dishes. And the other person's going, well, I did do the dishes. I did them yesterday. So that's inaccurate.
Right.
So that's not
And
true.
someone's lip curls up and then it's over. It's over in your house just like it's over in everybody else's house till tomorrow.
Right. So that is another thing to remember. It's never about the dishes. The dishes is a safe way of talking about what it's really about, which is the value system and the grief of having lost somebody who now doesn't seem to share the value system.
And I think we spend our entire lives, not even just in romantic relationships, but from the moment that we meet and we start the courtship and mating and dating ritual through to the end of what hopefully becomes a lifelong marriage, we spend all our time just looking for signals that this person is in it with me and for me just as much as I am for them.
Of course, I mean that's what you'd hope for, and that's what you should get as close to that as perfect as possible.
And the prescription is what? Just kiss them all the time, just constantly? Is that the best body language?
No, find out what they need,
Yeah.
and then do your best, knowing that you'll probably fail because it's really hard.